you're completely separated from your body. You're completely separated from your intuition. You're completely separated from your humanity. You are punished. You are attacked. You could be killed for following your intuition, and it's dangerous.
Welcome back to the Whose Body Is It podcast. I'm your host, Isabella Malvin. I help women deprogram from liberal feminism and reclaim their bodily sovereignty. On this podcast, we unpack female empowerment myths one episode at a time. If you're feeling enlivened by the conversations that you hear on this podcast, you'll definitely going to want to check out the masterclass library. So whether you're debating whether or not you should freeze your eggs or confronting your male partner about his porn addiction, or maybe you're going through a friend breakup over the trans issue, maybe you're a mother who wants to protect her daughter and prevent her from getting involved in the trans cult, or if she's already in the cult, getting her out of the cult. I have a class for you. There's no reason why you should be suffering alone, confused about, the talking points and the statistics. I have invited experts from all over the world to teach and to guide you and to give you support in this really crazy times that we're living through. I know when I was going through my kind of awakening, it felt really lonely. I didn't have many people to speak to about what I was reading and discovering and experiencing. So just know you don't have to go through this alone. There are plenty of women who are going through similar things who want to help you, give you the information you need to combat this madness of the woke world that we are living through here in 2025. So be sure to check out the masterclass library at whosebodyisit.com, and that link is in the episode show notes. So without further ado, let's get into this week's story. What happens when your conscience and your religion are at war from the time you're born? In this episode, author of Unveiled, How the West Empowers Radical Muslims, Yasmine Mohammed shares her harrowing story of growing up under the weight of religious indoctrination. From being told by her mother to promise she would kill non-believers, to being fed what she calls a diet of Jew hatred, Yasmine opens up about the everyday brainwashing that shaped her childhood and womanhood. She describes how Islam demands the abandonment of our humanity and how the internal conflict between conscience and religious doctrine ultimately set her on a path of questioning and eventually leaving Islam. We also discuss the rise of antisemitism and defenses of Islam since October 7th, the Western liberal insistence that Islam is a, quote, religion of peace, and the troubling ways third wave feminism romanticizes submission and abuse. Yasmine offers a candid critique of hijab, the recruitment of young women into Islam in North America and Europe. And Yasmine shares her journey from being told that the light she loved was the devil to now choosing her own guiding light. Yasmine speaks with raw honesty about her relationship with her mother, the abuse she endured, the accusations of Islamophobia she faces now as an activist, and her ongoing resistance to brainwashing in all its forms. Yasmine, I'm so thrilled to have you on the Whose Body Is It podcast. I have not uttered a word about my thoughts on radical Islam, hijabs, like really nothing of that sort until a couple of weeks ago. I had reposted something on Instagram of a woman in a full niqab instructing a younger woman who looks like a minor on how to properly drink her out of a water bottle. And I was completely shocked at all of the Western feminists, as you talk about extensively in your book, who were calling me Islamophobic and defending the choice to wear not even just the hijab but the niqab. So for the women listening who aren't familiar with you and your work, would you mind giving us a summary of who you are and what you do in the world.
My mom is Egyptian. My dad is from Gaza. And they met in university in Egypt and moved to San Francisco. They had my sister there. Obviously, they got married first, moved to San Francisco, I had my sister there, and then moved to Vancouver, Canada, where my brother and I were born. And then their marriage fell apart, and my mom was, she had 3 kids living in a new country, didn't really have a support system. So she went to the mosque looking for just community. And at this time, it's like early 80s, late 70s, early 80s. And this is the Muslim Brotherhood, Islamist, political Islam is just starting on the rise. And she got right on that trajectory along with it. And a man in the mosque who was living in the mosque at the time, who was caretaker of the mosque, Egyptian man, was married to a Canadian convert. He had 3 children from a previous marriage and took my mom on as his concurrent wife, because in Islam a man can have up to 4 wives. Even though it's illegal in Canada, they didn't bother them. And my mom just became a born again Muslim, I guess is the best way to describe her. So if familiar with born again Christians and how they become such zealots trying to prove themselves to be, they try to prove themselves to be even more Christian than everybody else because they feel like that insecurity of the life of sin that they lived prior. So that was my mom exactly. She used to wear mini skirts, didn't wear hijab, dancing and boyfriends and drinking and everything. And so now this was her time to repent. And she followed an Islamist man named Sayyid Qutb, who was very much, part of this brand new idea of combining anti-West and pro-Islam in like this, this mess of just completely intertwined. And to her, I feel, related more to the anti-West stuff than she even did to the pro-Islam stuff, because she blamed the West for the reason why her marriage fell apart. Because when they were in San Francisco, my dad was totally up on like the peace, love, and hippie era that they joined. They went there like in the late 60s, early 70s. It was like super hippie time. My dad was like, I love this. And my mom did not. And so she blamed the debauchery, the heathens, the horrible American women for ruining her marriage, which is very much what these Islamists are preaching, right? The West is a heathen mess of infidels doomed for hell, and they need Islam to save the world. Like Islam needs to take over America, needs to take over the West. Everybody needs to be praising Allah in all these countries in order for there to be peace in the world. And so my mom, just like this man came into our lives, put her in hijab, started forcing us to read Quran, memorize Quran, pray 5 times a day. Everything was haram. Haram means forbidden. Suddenly everything was haram. No more birthdays, no more non-Muslim friends, no more riding a bike, no more swimming, everything. Haram, 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 haram. Music. He took my mom's records and he broke them all with us just sitting there, passing the shards of the records to us, saying, break this. This is Mazmur al-Shaitan. This is coming from the devil. And I was like, you just came into our house and you're breaking my mom's stuff? Like, and she's just standing there letting him do it, not even resisting, which I couldn't believe. If my brother had come into my room and started breaking my things, I would have had a reaction. Like, I just couldn't believe how she just capitulated completely. So it let us know, like, okay, he's the new law in town. And that was it, right? We got put into Islamic schools. Like I said, my sister and I were put in hijab. Everything became haram. And I was very unhappy and very uncomfortable and really wanted my old life back. But I mean, I was like 5 or 6 years old when this was happening, so I
Mm.
was very young, and there's nothing you can do about it other than be unhappy. You can't resist when you're that much of a child. And I was getting physically tortured for any resistance too, so that's also a deterrent. And eventually, a lot happened. You read my book. There's like this whole thing of them dropping me off in Egypt for years, trying, hoping, thinking that if I'm in an Islamic country, I'll conform and
Mm.
I'll just be quiet and I'll stop fighting and I'll just stop resisting, basically, and just like submit, which is the true definition of the word Islam. And what were my resistance, right? I didn't want to wear the hijab. I wanted to have non-Muslim friends. I didn't like the way my brother was in control of me. I wasn't allowed to make my own. You're not supposed to leave the house without your male guardian with you. And I didn't like any of these restrictions. I'm growing up, this is 90s in Canada. Like the feminism, is totally on the rise. And the sounds that I'm hearing outside the home completely contradict the sounds that I'm hearing inside the home. And I really like the outside the home world better. And for that, I was getting punished a lot, severely, because I was being told, like, just because you're born in a barn doesn't make you a horse. Just because you're born in Canada doesn't make you Canadian. This is not your
Mm.
culture. These are not your people. This is not who you are. You are Muslim. You're part of the Ummah first and foremost. And if the caliphate rises, you have to be willing to stand on the side of good against all of these infidels. You have to be willing to kill these people that you are considering to be your friends. And it was a very, very strong us and them mentality. And I grew up believing that, well, being taught that all of the non-Muslims wanted me dead, hated me,
Mm.
and therefore we hate them back. I saw no evidence of that, so it was really difficult for me to accept, because random strangers at the bakery or wherever were nice.
Right.
And so I didn't feel that that was true, but that's what I was being told was
Mhm.
true. So, you're stuck in that
Mhm.
cognitive dissonance. And anyway, fast forward to I'm 19. They forced me into a marriage with an Al Qaeda terrorist because, as my mom says, we finally found someone strong enough to control you. And that's when I started to wear niqab, so head to toe in black, not even my eyes showing, just walking around like a dementor from a Harry Potter book. And in those years, I did submit, because what are you going to do? You're getting beaten, you're getting raped, you're being told there's nothing you can do about it. Who are you going to complain to? The creator of the universe, the most powerful, has has given this man the right to do whatever he wants because you are his property. So who's an authority more than Allah, right? Like who am I going to complain to? This is it. This is how I have to survive. And then I got pregnant, and when I held my little daughter in my arms and I was totally overwhelmed with love for her and a desire to protect her, that's when I knew I couldn't continue living like this, because I did not want her to live like this. And so she was the catalyst. She was the reason why I was like, I have to get out of this world, especially since my mom and her dad were talking about taking her to Egypt to get FGM performed on her, so female genital mutilation, which is a very common practice in Egypt. It was much more common then. Now it's been criminalized, so it's less common. But I mean, it was like 90% or more than 90% of girls at that time.
Wow.
Yeah. And
Right, because this is the 90. You had your daughter. No, you had
Yeah.
your daughter in the 90s.
96. Yeah. And that's when I knew, okay, she's going to have a worse life than me. This is too much, you know? And so, as you know, again from my book, a long series of convoluted, complicated events, like honestly, flap of a butterfly here or there would have completely thrown everything off. Somehow, I was able to get out with my daughter, go to university, start my life over again. He was arrested by Canadian, well, he wasn't arrested by Canadian intelligence, but the Canadian Secret Service, they're the ones who told me about what was going on. It was actually the FBI, and they were the ones who arrested him through working with Canadian and American intelligence. And he ended up in prison in Egypt. And so I was like, okay, now I'm safe to
Mm.
leave my house because he's Al Qaeda, and I don't know if you remember in those days how powerful they were. They're not anymore, but they were back then, and I just didn't know how safe it was to leave my home. And not just because of him, but because of his whole network of terrorists. So then I started going to university. Again, this is completely defying my family because I'm living by myself with my daughter, and only whores live by themselves. You're either supposed to be living with your father or with your husband. Girls don't live alone. But I was like, I'm done. Like I've done everything that I possibly can for you people. I've followed every single rule that you have forced upon me, but I'm not. My daughter isn't. Like this is the line right here. Like we found the boundary finally. And it was really because I didn't think that I had any worth. I didn't think that I was worth fighting for. I had zero self-worth, like less than zero. But my daughter was very totally worth it to me.
Hmm.
She was everything. So I was going to protect her. And through that I was able to save myself too, just kind of as a addendum, you know. And so I started going to university. 9/11 happens. And the terrorist that I was married to was connected to all of that. And so now it's like my face and my name are front page news because BBC were going into one of bin Laden's lairs in Afghanistan, and they had picked up a piece of paper, a random piece of paper from like all the paper flying around. And the one piece of paper, this guy completely in like bomb gear, I'll never forget this. It was just like, what are the odds? Picks up a piece of paper, starts reading it. It's the name of the person they made me marry, and his address, and the name of his company, and da 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 da. So they trace it back to me that I was married to this guy, and now I'm being harassed by journalists. And 9/11 was devastating for me on so many levels because I was feeling really, it was very weird because as much as I was feeling so sick and disgusted and humiliated that I was part of the group of people that would not only do this but celebrate this, because there's a lot of jubilation in my community and in Muslim communities throughout the world. But the outside world were very much acting as if I was the victim in this scenario. Like I was in university, the dean of my faculty called me into his office to make sure that nobody was mistreating me. I was like, "Are you okay? Like, why are you asking me? Like, this is so weird. Thousands of people. Like, the destruction was still happening. You know what I mean? Like, remember, it took a while to comb through all of that, just the rubble and debris and the lives and the firefighters. Like it was this huge ripple effect for so long. And while all of that devastation is going on, you're worried about a Muslim girl in your university. People might be being mean to her. Like it was just so disorienting to me. I was like, yeah, don't worry about me. Like, worry about everybody else. Like, worry about the victims here, not why are you even concerned about me? And I didn't want to be part of it. And I certainly didn't want my daughter to be part of it. I did not she was still really young, but I was seeing what was happening, and I was seeing how happy and how gleeful and how gloating the community were. And I'm like, I can't believe it. You know what I mean? Like, this is the most grotesque. What is it like? What words can you even use to describe? Like, we're watching people jump to their death, and these people are like, Allahu Akbar, like so happy, like we're winning. And I'm like, what is this? Like, and so I was like, there's no way that my daughter is going to grow up in this world. And so through a combination of being allowed to critically think for the first time in a history of religions class at my university, which bombarded me intellectually, and 9/11, which bombarded me emotionally, I didn't want to be a part of this religion anymore. But of course, to make that decision means that the punishment for that is execution. So you have 3 days to repent or you to be killed. And not just by a court of law or whatever, by any believing Muslim. And so that's when I had to start being very, very quiet. And I stayed very, very quiet for a very, very long time. And it wasn't until a Bill Maher episode with Sam Harris and Ben Affleck where Sam Harris and Bill Maher were trying to say that, liberals are really loud and supportive for freedom of expression, homosexuality, freedom of religion, all this stuff. But as soon as you say that there are problems with these issues in the Muslim world, they clamp up. They don't want to talk about it. They shut down. And the example that Bill Maher was giving was that in a lot of Muslim majority countries, if you leave Islam, you are to be killed, executed by the state. But in Egypt, who they consider themselves to be progressive, they won't execute you, but they'll put you in an insane asylum. So they'd done some research and did some polls, and they started asking Egyptian people, do you think those who leave Islam should be executed? And it was like 86% or something, some astronomical number like that, maybe even 90%, I can't remember. Very high number of Egyptians said, yeah, they should be killed. They shouldn't be put in an insane asylum. They should be executed. So Bill was giving this as an example of this is something we should be concerned about, but we won't say a word because it's only Egyptian atheists, we're not going to care about the 15 Muslim majority countries that kill gay people because it's only brown gays, and he's like, how are you calling yourself a liberal and you're turning your back on these people around the world? And Ben Affleck jumps in as if to play the part of the useful idiot, and he's like, oh, you guys are being gross and racist. And the term Islamophobic wasn't yet mainstream, but that's basically what he was saying to them, like, oh, you're being bigoted. How dare you state facts from Pew Research? And so the next day on my Facebook, again, this was back in the day when Facebook was still a thing, everybody was completely supporting Ben Affleck and attacking Sam Harris and attacking Bill Maher. And I was like, what kind of upside down world am I living in? Like, this is deranged. You guys have no idea. But the reason why Sam and Bill were being attacked was because they're white American men. How dare white American men speak up? How dare white American men have an opinion? But it was nothing to do with the argument. Like, okay, let's just put their immutable characteristics aside for a second and interact with, let's pay attention to the arguments here. No, nobody wanted to do that. Everybody wanted to attack them for their immutable characteristics. So that's when I decided, okay, fine. Brown-skinned Arab woman, here we go. I'm going to say the exact same thing, but it's coming from a different source, and it will force people to engage with the argument because they can't be stopped by my immutable characteristics. What do you got? I grew up, I'm more Muslim than any average Muslim that you'll ever meet in your life. Like, I had more experience in that religion. My mom was the head of the Islamic studies at the Islamic school. She's an Al Azhar scholar, and we had to make sure we knew that religion inside out because, of course, her honor was on the line. I'm the one who wore head to toe niqab. These are very few Muslims lived as Muslim as I did. So there's no attacking my credibility. And then, of course, to make the lefty progressive liberals happy, I'm an authentic voice. I am a woman of color and all that stuff. So it's like all of these reasons why I felt like I was compelled
Yeah.
to speak up and say the same thing as so many other people, but those people were being shut down for very unfair reasons. And so now I could kind of circumvent that. And that was it. That's what made me start writing my book. That's what made me start going public. It's probably a lot longer of an answer than you were hoping for.
No,
I was not concise.
and no, you were 100% concise. And thank you so much for that backdrop. After listening to your summary and hopefully the rest of the interview, women will be even more compelled to listen to your full book. I actually listened to it on audio both times, and I loved hearing your voice. And you can hear the breaks in your voice. I mean, you can hear how difficult it was for you to write this book, and you talk about that in the book as well. And my listeners, we do talk about a lot of trauma, a lot of visceral, a lot of explicit abuse on my podcast, and so your book does contain that. And I even had to like pace around the room and take breaks as I was listening to just your reality. The reality in the home is so different than what we are taught from an ideological sense. If you were educated in like a postmodern liberal university, what we see on TV, and then even women in kind of the radical feminist community, which we consider ourselves like real feminists, like the ones who know what women are. I'm even seeing a divide there, and so your book is so important. It continues to be important. It will continue to be important. It is a timeless kind of lesson, and ultimately a story of survival and strength. And so there's so many themes in your book that I want to, in your story and all that you were taught and now talk about, that I want to touch on. So I'm gonna now try to be really concise in our remaining time together. Okay, so one of the biggest themes that really spoke to me was the constant battle, as you talk about, between what your conscience was telling you to do and what contrasted by what religion was telling you to do, and how that transformed into the mothering, like the experience of you being mothered or not mothered, neglected and abused by your own mother. I mean, I think about this a lot because I'm a half Jewish woman living in Israel, and the topic of circumcision is obviously it's really taboo here, and I occupy a space where I don't have a lot of friends on the matter, even though it is shifting. But I think about it with my secular Jewish friends and the desire to hold on to that one thing that is the so-called covenant, and the overriding and the acknowledgement that it is mutilation, right? And we can get into the FGM versus infant male circumcision debate, and there's a lot of variation in how that's defined and how it's practiced and so on. But just this, the theme of constantly battling what feels like an instinctive, protective thing to do, a human thing to do, humane thing to do, versus what is being taught to you, and being in that split self, like at all times.
Yeah, I'm still dealing with that. That's not, you're completely separated from your body. You're completely separated from your intuition. You're completely separated from your humanity. You are admonished, you are punished, you are attacked, you could be killed for following your intuition, and it's dangerous. You have to shut it all off and just do as you're told. You have to get in line. It's survival.
Mm-hmm.
I describe it in my book probably, in the most gentle way of saying it's like a school of fish. It's a lot worse than that, but it was the analogy that I was trying to just show that there is no individual in this group. There's no critical thinking, there's no feeling, there's no anything, there's no wisdom. It's just soldiers. It's just go, just do as you're told, survive. And if you were part of this school of fish and you decided to go in a different direction, that's dangerous, right?
Yeah.
If you're a soldier and you decide to make your own decisions, it's dangerous. And it's dangerous for you, it's dangerous for the group. This is how you're raised. So the physical, sort of the visual representation of all this is a tightrope. There's a tightrope, and underneath the tightrope there are the fires of hell burning. And you're told as a Muslim that you have to walk on this Sirat al-Mustaqim so carefully, follow every single rule to the letter. And when I say every single rule, people hear 5 times a day prayer and they think that's a lot. It's like, you don't even know. Praying 5 times, that's just the fard. And then there's the sunnah after that. And then there's the wudu before that. And then there's all the dua you have to do all day long. Every single aspect of your life is completely how you enter what foot you enter the bathroom with, and what you say before you go in the bathroom. How to wash yourself when you're in the bathroom. Which foot to use when you're leaving the bathroom, and what to say when you're leaving the bathroom. How to drink water. How to cut your nails. How to put your shoes on. There is not a single aspect of your life that requires you to use a single brain cell, ever. Using your brain is completely, it's not even just unacceptable, it's punished. You have to just do as you're told. You walk on that tightrope, and if you misstep, you're down into the fires of hell. And so you learn at a very young age, especially because there's emotional manipulation, there's physical torture, there's all sorts of coercive methods to make you never forget that you don't matter. You are not an individual. You do not have the right to have feelings about anything that you're told to do or say. You just do it, and you just say it, and you don't think about it. And even after leaving Islam, even after earning 3 university degrees and becoming a university professor, and moving on with my life in ways from the outside, it looks like, oh, she's cleansed of this, she's good. No. I still didn't know how to tap into my own intuition. I still didn't know how to listen to my body. I'm still learning. I'm still learning how to feel the wisdom in my body, because this is, your brain is so easily manipulated. It's like, indoctrination, brainwashing, all of these methods, they're used all over the world, not just with cults but, with different, intelligence services and whatever, psychology of like advertising, social media, like we're constantly hacking each other's brains. It's easy. We're very hackable creatures. I think it was Yuval Noah Harari that was saying how easy it is to hack humans. Yeah, it's easy. And you know what's even easier? Hacking children. That's really easy. So You hack the brain of a child, they're never like it's like that's it. And so I'm still suffering from what you just
Yeah.
described, that disassociation between my body and my mind. I'm still trying to connect those, those lost, severed connections.
Mhm. I'm reminded of the part of your book, where you're describing like understanding that retrospectively that your mom did not care if you lived or died,
Hmm.
but constantly wanting her protection and feeling that she could protect your body or your safety or your well-being, and continuing to have faith in her. So the disconnection from the body, but also you mentioned like the devil inside the body. There's so many layers to it. Like in the secular in the secular world, I'm thinking of like in a non explicitly like sexually abusive or physically abusive home, we're dealing with pharmaceuticals, we're dealing with lack of body education, like we're dealing with dissociation, but like on such also has implications, but the kind of this the environment that you described is unfathomable to a Western woman. It's
Hmm.
unfathomable, with maybe the exception of someone who also lived under extreme fundamentalist Christians or like incest and Jewish or orthodoxy. But still, there's the element of us versus them that is just taken to such an extreme in Islam. And the martyrdom, like those fundamentalist Christian homes are not making their daughters promise to kill all their friends at school, which you describe, like your mom telling you to clean your room, like just like as they're one and the same. Like just don't forget that if the
Hmm.
time comes, you must kill your friends, your
Hmm.
infidel, your infidel friends. So
Hmm.
I appreciate, yeah, you saying that you're still working through that and also sharing that reality that this is not just that it's over now because you left Islam and don't wear hijab or niqab. Can you describe like a personal interaction or professional experience where you were confronted with Western feminists defending what you lived through?
Yeah, I've had so many of those experiences. I was just at a bookstore with my daughter and her friends the other day, and there was a book by Roxane Gay, and I was like, ugh. I had a really, explosive.
So many women ruined for me. Like everyone was
Yeah,
ruined. I used to love her books. Yes.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. So she was going on about hijab and how it was like feminist and empowering and a choice. And I'm like, where are you? How are you a what is happening? Like, I don't understand. These are the same people. Like, you understand purity culture. You understand rape culture. You understand victim blaming. You understand patriarchy.
Mhm.
What part of this is confusing for you? What part don't you get? How do you do a 180 completely just because they're Muslim? It's so strange to me. Like, how does your brain just shut off? And so, of course, I responded to her. And again, that as a Muslim, as a woman who wore hijab, as a woman who wore niqab, let me tell you how stupid and wrong you are and how dangerous it is that you're spreading this propaganda for the Islamists. Like, good
Mhm.
job for you, useful idiot. Like, you with your huge platform, spreading the, Islamic regime of Iran propaganda, or the Taliban of Afghanistan, or ISIS of Iraq and Syria, like all of these groups, they are in complete agreement with you. Like, good job, you know?
Yeah.
And so, of course, all the Saudi women join in with me as well. And so that's why she blocked me, to stop the onslaught of attention that she was getting, because she didn't like it. She wanted to speak ignorance about people that she knew nothing about a topic she knew nothing about. She just wanted to spew her propaganda that was given to her by her Muslim colleagues, by
Mm-hmm.
her Islamist colleagues, with no opportunity for, any kind of dialogue. She doesn't want to be she didn't care about the truth. She didn't care about hearing the whole story or the context or understanding what she was talking about. She just wanted to virtue signal. She just wanted to look like the good guy. And we see this all over all the time, not just with feminists and this whole issue, but we're seeing it very much with the Gaza, Hamas Israel conflict as
Mm-hmm.
well. People don't care to know the history. People
Mm-hmm.
don't care to understand what's happening. They just want to they just want to pretend that Jewish people are white and therefore they are the oppressors and these are brown and therefore they are the oppressed. Done. Let's go home. We're finished, right?
Yeah.
Story's over. They don't care to understand the history of the region or what's going on. It's like, no, it's got to be the same as us. We colonized America, and so that's probably what they did over there too. It's like, no, it's the polar opposite actually. It's a decolonization. But no, what would be they don't want to put in that kind of effort, right? They just want to throw a kafaya on and, click like on some TikTok video with like simplistic narrative that everybody can understand. A lie, but if it's repeated enough, it
Mm-hmm.
just becomes mainstream. Genocide, 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 apartheid, 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 apartheid. Say it enough times, people just assume it's the truth and they're not going to go and do any kind of research or understanding. Same thing with the hijab.
Yeah.
Hijab is a choice. It's a choice, 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 choice. Just keep saying that. Just keep saying that while you're arresting women in Iran and while you're killing women in Afghanistan and the rest of the world. Just keep saying it's a choice, and then nobody's going to notice all of the reality all around us, And unfortunately, that's what happens.
I think also Westerners have a naivete about how embedded Jew hatred is into Islam. So can you maybe talk about the distinction between like all the infidels and then like the place that the Jews occupy? Like who's worse? Like yeah. Because like we know Hitler had a hierarchy of like who was, worse. Can you talk a little about because I have to admit that it's really only in the past 2 years that I've fully understood the depths and experienced Jewish conspiracy theories. Not I don't mean just from Islam, but just from all my little pockets, from the medical freedom community, from the feminists, from just all like it's everywhere. But I really want, yeah. Can you as someone who wow was forced to understand the Quran front to back, everything in between, like can you clarify that for my audience?
Yeah. So yeah, it is. It's all a spectrum of hate, and within that spectrum of hate, there's other Muslims too. So if you're Sunni, which was what I was, which is about 90% of Muslims, Shia are included there in the hate. Ahmadi, Ismaili, like all these other Muslims too, but they are the last to go.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so in the hierarchy, the group that you just slaughter them are the polytheists. So Hindus or anybody the Zoroastrians, you don't believe you're not a monotheist, you're done. They just kill you. If you are either a Christian or a Jew, so you're a monotheist, then you're considered people of the book. So you're not to be killed, but you're a second class citizen. You're a dhimmi, and you have to pay jizya, basically a they call it a tax, but it's more like if you think of the mafia when they go around and they're like, "Hey, you better give us the money that you owe us this month so that you don't get hurt." Right? That's what it is.
Mm.
And so people of the book are allowed to live in Muslim countries, but they're second class citizens. And there's all sorts of rules about like if you're walking along the sidewalk and a Jew comes along or a Christian, they're the ones that have to go out on the road. The Muslim stays on the sidewalk. Like just the stupid things like that. Like just constantly being reminded that you're not equal to us. Now, when you look at Christians and Jews, there's a very big difference between how they're spoken about in the Quran and how they're spoken about in the Hadith and how they are treated in real life. So there's a Jewish people are not capitulators. They're tough and they are thinkers. So when I was growing up, I would get insulted by being called a Jew. Why are you thinking so much? Why do you ask so many questions?
Oh,
Are
wow.
you a Jew? Yeah, like this is a bad
Wow.
thing. Why do you ask so many questions? Are
Wow.
you a Jew? There's so much in the Quran about how Jews like just did not get in line. They did not just shut up and do what they were told. They were kept on asking questions, trying to understand. They need
Mm,
some logical reasonings. They need some, critical analysis. And it's just like that's what makes them apes, pigs. They should be the fuel for their bodies will be the fuel for the fires of hell. They're just like considered the worst of creatures. And, there's a hadith that became popularized after October 7th because Muslims were actually writing these and then going out to protests,
right.
holding signs, not even ashamed, but telling the world about how their religion teaches that when there is a war between Muslims and Jews, the rocks and the trees will speak. And when a Jew tries to hide behind a rock or behind a tree, the tree will say, "Oh, Muslim, there's a Jew hiding behind me. Come kill him." So that's the level. There's nothing like that for Christians. There's nothing like that even for the Hindus and Zoroastrians and, polytheists. This kind of obsessive hate where there are surahs like dedicated chapters of the Quran dedicated to talking about how annoying Jewish people are, how horrible they are, how they are just like just the insults go on and on and on, right? To the point that if you ask a friend of mine was telling me that he asked an Egyptian, teach me a swear word in Egypt or in Egyptian Arabic. And he taught him Yehudi, which means Jew. I was like, this is what they consider to be like the worst insult, the worst curse word. And you really can't live in a Muslim majority country without constantly it's completely normalized. You don't even there's no concept of anti-Semitism or anything like that. It's like this is accepted. They are evil. They want to take over the world. They want to control everything. And they are doing that. And even if you can't see them, it's just because they're really good at it. But they're controlling the water, they're controlling the weather, they're controlling everything. And it's all like this evil demonic force. It's like the boogeyman. And everything and anything gets blamed on Jewish people. They've never met a Jewish person in their life, but they know that Jewish people are behind everything.
Right. Right. I just remember another part of your book where I think it was your aunt, like a non-religious family member. It was your aunt, and you're at the market, and they're like the tiny little cucumbers, and she's like, "Oh no, the Jews have been injecting cancer into the cucumbers, and that's why they're getting smaller." And like, I love that
It's
you
like,
also just clarified
what?
that she wasn't even particularly religious. Like,
Yeah.
it was
It's
wow.
just normal life.
Just
That's just
normal.
normal
It's just
talk.
normal.
Yeah,
Yeah,
normal talk
yeah.
to like to that level though, right? Like to inject cancer into the cucumbers and that's why they're small. Like it's so the conspiracy theories are so weird and so out there, but so normalized. Like she said it as if you were saying like, "Oh, the strawberries smell good." You know what I mean? Like it's like just common chat as you're walking around the
It's
fruit and
just
vegetable market.
unbelievable. It's just
Yeah.
unbelievable. Oh my gosh, I have a gazillion more questions, but in an effort to conserve time, I'm trying to I'm gonna actually pick, okay, what is my audience gonna want to know the most from you? And this is might sound so weird. I don't know if anyone's asked you this question, but is is body hair removal haram?
In some places, yeah. So you're not
Okay.
allowed to pluck your eyebrows. That's not
Okay.
allowed. I mean, I don't know why, but specifically, you can't pluck your eyebrows, which is why I had a unibrow when I was a kid. I've got like people are like, "Can I see pictures of you in hijab?" I'm like, "Here it is," and also my unibrow. Yeah, but you are allowed to remove other body hair.
Okay.
So some is allowed and some isn't. There's specific rules about
Just about
everything.
everything.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right. Also, thank you for giving us the whole the answering the Jew versus the infidels and the hierarchy, and that was really educational for me. So thank you so much. The literal definition you mentioned earlier of Islam is submission. My
That's
friends
right.
joke, I mentioned to you, I live in an area where there are a lot of mosques in Tel Aviv. And some of my friends go, oh, there goes again the call to subordination and submission. It's like, and that's just not something anyone would ever say to me in the US or even bother to understand like what is actually being asked in the call to prayer. What are they actually saying?
It's not just a call to submission. It's a call of superiority. There's a real supremacy in Islam, and people really miss it when they use words in Arabic. This is the thing when Arabic is my first language. And so I hear people saying things like, oh, long live the Intifada. They don't know what the fuck they're saying. Intifada is like saying blah, 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 right? Like they don't understand the depths, the meanings of these words that they're saying. And it's the same kind of thing. When you hear the call, I was in Tel Aviv and I heard the call to prayer and I felt sick. I took a video of it so that I could show the world, okay, this is the apartheid you're talking about. Like,
Mm-hmm.
even though I disagree with it, I don't think that call to prayer should be happening in Israel or in any Western nation. I don't even want it happening in a Muslim country, but that's their business. But I don't think that, like, I don't agree with it. I'm totally secular, and yeah, I'm completely against religion infringing on people's public life,
Yeah.
their right to noise pollution invading their life as they're trying to enjoy the beautiful city. So, yeah, so what's happening in that call to prayer is it's a warning. It's a warning. It's saying if you don't come and pray, then this is your salvation. Like you need to come here or and pray, or you will be ruined. Like God, Allah is the greatest. You need to come and follow him. You need to come and worship him. You need to come and pray to him, or else. That's what's happening in that call to prayer. And so it's not just like people are like, oh, it's like church bells, or no, it's definitely not. It's very different. It is a threat. And for people to just think it's innocuous because it's in another language, you're not really understanding it or thinking that, oh, this is about religious freedom or whatever. It's not. You have the freedom to go and pray in your mosque, to go and pray in your house, to go and pray whatever you do. And I have the freedom to not have to hear about it as I'm walking along the streets of the place where I want to feel safe, my home. They constantly do this, not just in Israel, but all over Europe, Australia, America, Canada. This is what they do. They're constantly pushing the line. For they don't want to just practice quietly in their homes. And it's not a faith-based religion. This is a political ideology. They want to spread it. This is why the whole Muslim Brotherhood and all of these Islamists exist. This is why jihadis exist. This is why they're in our government, and this is why billions and billions of dollars from Qatar are being funneled into American Ivy League universities.
Mm-hmm.
This is what they are doing. They are proselytizing. The adhan is just a part of it, one tiny piece of it,
Right.
you know, but it's all about spreading, spreading, spreading. And with the spreading comes the threatening at the same time. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, this is the religion and you better follow it. And when they have enough power, they will do what they have always done in so many. How did you think 57 Muslim majority countries in this world? How did a quarter of this planet become Muslim majority? Through rainbows and butterflies? No. It was through convert or die. That's how it happened. And this is the same strategy over and over and over again, but just like the history of Islam, just like the history of Muhammad, when they are lower, less powerful population, demographic, then you're just going to hear it through these gentle nudgings of like, oh, can we have halal meat? Oh, can we change the uniforms to include hijabs? Oh, can we, this and that and the other thing constantly? Can we have prayer rooms? Can we play the adhan from our loudspeakers? But as soon as they get more powerful, you're going to see much more demands. And this is what people don't understand. They don't understand who they're dealing with. It is a naivete, like you mentioned, and it's also an arrogance and an ignorance.
Yeah. Okay, you mentioned conversion. I mean, I had a flashback of a 90-Day Fiance, actually many episodes on TLC about like just romanticizing stories of young women meeting Muslim guys online and converting to Islam and moving to whichever Muslim majority country they were living in.
You want me to
With
explain to you why
that,
people are stupid?
yeah, like what are you seeing on that front? And also another naivete that, and also you make the distinction in your book. I think one of the pitfalls of Western liberals is being surrounded by Muslims in institutions and understanding that as exclusively assimilation, right? And this is not to say all Muslims are going into institutions of the political system because they want Islam to take over the world. But it does seem pretty connected to the practice of the religion. So I'm not sure how we would separate it. With the more like the martyrdom path, that is such a important part of the implementation, like the way it's being implemented. We believe that we need to take over the world. How are we going to do it?
Yeah.
Right? It's not just all car bombings and bus bombings and terrorist attacks and stabbings. Like
It's part
systematic.
of it,
And
yeah.
you make the distinction in your book, like that the ones that have kind of wear suits in the US or in Canada are like there's a hierarchy of how a debate on a disagreement on how it's supposed to be done. How are we going to take over the world? What have you noticed, or what can you speak to about watching non-Muslim women convert?
So I feel that everything that you've described is the connection there is dawah. So dawah is like missionary work, proselytizing, spreading of Islam, and that can be done in so many different ways. And like you mentioned, people may disagree on how to do it. One guy thinks, oh, I'll do it through blowing up this gay bar and killing a bunch of gay people because homosexuality is haram in Islam. Whereas somebody else will say, well, no, I'm going to run for Congress. You know what I mean? They'll find different ways, but everybody's got the same goal. And one of those ways is what in India they've started to call love jihad, which is the same. It's just dawah through getting people to convert to Islam. Usually men getting women to convert to Islam. Now, Islam really does, it reaches your most basic, like lizard brain instincts. It's very rudimentary. So when you think of how it tries to encourage men to kill themselves in jihad, what does it say? It says if you kill a Jew and kill yourself in the process, you get to go to heaven. You get 72 big breasted virgins who will have sex with you for eternity, and they will constantly re-virginify, and they'll never look at any other man, only at you, and da 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 da, right? So such detail about these sex slaves they're going to get. And then you cover all the other women in black, and you don't let them interact with women, but you tell them, if you kill fi sabilillah, you'll get as many women as you want for the rest of eternity. So when I say it reaches your most base,
Wow.
lizard brain, that's what I'm talking about. This is how it encourages men to join Islam, right? The raping and the pillaging and all of the booty that you're going to receive, including all of these sex slaves, women and girls, millions and millions and millions of women and girls from Western nations. And these sex slaves in the religion are described as white skinned, skin so white you can see their veins, blah blah blah. They're describing Western women, right? That's what happens for men. For women, they use very similar kind of encouragement processes for to encourage Western women to convert. So they do a lot of, you're not going to have to work. You're not going to have to do anything. He's going to take care of you. He's going to be your protector. He's going to be your provider. Like very trad woman kind of stuff that women or girls who grew up in abusive homes, a father who wasn't there, never had anybody take care of them, never had anybody support them or protect them. This looks good. This sounds good to me, right? They don't know the reality. They don't understand that it's like, they are choosing to give up their freedom and to enter into a prison. They are choosing to enter into slavery. Like, yeah, somebody is going to be, you're not going to have to work. That's right, because you're not going to leave the house. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you're going to become like a dog or even worse. You're not going to have any opinion. You're not going to have any autonomy. You're not going to have any control over your life. You're not going to have control over your own thoughts. You're not going to have control over your own body, right? But they don't tell them that part. They tell them the part that is going to entice them.
Right.
And then when you add to it this weird mess that we have going on in the world today with this worshiping of Islamic culture and Muslims and hijab, and this distorted understanding that it's somehow this, this transcendent religion. And it makes people, especially in the West these days, where being white and straight is horrible, you better be something. Turn yourself into a they, them, turn yourself into a Muslim, do something. But you certainly aren't going to be white and straight, because that's just embarrassing. So they're trying to look for something. They're trying to look for something to join, looking for something to be. Put a hijab on, and suddenly you're a minority. Suddenly you get to be cool and join in with all of these, holier than thou minorities that get to have all this attitude towards the big bad white devil. You're not one of them anymore, And so that's also a part of it. I think that's that kind of social contagion is more recent now. And again, like I mentioned before, completely devoid of any brain activity. These people are on social media quoting Osama bin Laden. Like how do you, it's just
Like an avalanche, just
yeah. I mean, I don't even know what to say, because it's horrible, but it's like, do we need a constant September 11th, a constant October 7th? Like, how often do we need this? Samuel Paty, Charlie Hebdo, like how many at Ariana Grande concert, Nova Festival, like how many of these do you need? Do you need this just constantly happening all the time? to make sure that it's top of mind and that people don't forget, and then get fooled into some propaganda. Like how can this propaganda even be successful when the reality is so polar opposite? Like I don't, people are just so uninformed.
Something else is coming to mind, like just on my podcast, I interview a lot of former prostitutes, former women who worked in the in pornography, worked in porn. See, I'm even repeating the brain, who were trafficked through pornography. And we're dealing with this, like, just on such a layered scale of dissociation, fetishizing, submission. I mean, there's such a grueling part of your story that you describe in explicit detail where you're one of your abusers. And I just kept thinking, in another context, this is considered empowerment. This is considered submission, is considered empowerment. Getting tortured is empowerment. So it's to touch, to speak to, to uncover or to address what you're asking people to uncover and address, is to also break the spell on so many other things. And it takes a lot of bravery to do that, because you have to be willing for everything to unravel. And if everything unravels, it's really lonely. I mean, I went through it. I was like, I went through it. It is scary to keep opening the doors that you're told you're really not supposed to open.
You're right. It's terrifying. It's isolating. And a lot of people just turn back and they're like, that's okay. Just forget it. Like they just shut their brains down and choose to not, acknowledge what they learned because it's too scary. The price is too high, but people like you and me, we couldn't do it. So you choose the much more difficult road of integrity, staying honest with yourself, you know, allowing your authentic self to align with your life versus living in that constant, misalignment just to survive. It's survival.
Yeah. So my final question, well, not my actual final question, but my final question for this interview, you mentioned in your book that you were taught that the light that you clung to was actually the devil, that what you love and connect with is evil. So what do you believe now, or what is your guiding light now in your life?
Still the same. So I've been through a lot. It's been a very long, convoluted path. But when I was young, I really did have a closer connection to my authentic self. And I really resisted a lot of what was going on around me. And I was very in here, and I would read a lot of books and I would read a lot of poetry. And, I was just in my own self. And then, it starts to become just untenable. Like you can't continue. It felt like almost like living a double life, So I kept wishing and hoping, visualizing. I didn't even know these words at the time, but I was visualizing like what my life would be. And I just couldn't accept where I was. And like I mentioned with the marriage to that terrorist, that just broke my inside, my voice, my authentic self. It was just completely gone, disappeared, finished, like broken down into submission to the point that I had zero connection to my true self anymore. And that was something that my mom had been working on for a very long time. As you mentioned, anytime I would ask a question, anytime I would resist, anytime I would push back, that was from the devil. And to me, it was like, no, but this is who I am. Like, I feel this. I feel this is wrong. I don't think I should be okay with a 6-year-old girl marrying a 53-year-old man. Like, this doesn't feel right. And you making the argument that she was 9 when he consummated the marriage, that doesn't help. Oh, no, no, no. Before that, he only did other things. He only did. You're talking about grooming a young girl, and I'm supposed to be okay with it. And if I have a problem with that, that makes me the bad person because I have to worship this man and like, what? No, none of this feels right. All of this feels wrong. All of this feels disgusting. Every single part of my body is resistant to this, you know? But they do it long enough, they torture you enough, and they indoctrinate you enough, and you eventually have to disconnect from your body because otherwise you can't survive. So as long as you're constantly feeling sick about this and uncomfortable with this, like you have to at some point. And what I did was just shut it all down and just became what they wanted. I became that soldier, I became that fish, and I just did as I was told. And I was I don't even want to say a shell of myself because that's not even true. I wasn't even a shadow of myself. I just was a thing. I literally was a dementor, like physically and also, internally. The way I described it in my book was my soul had just rotted under that thing. And because I was so entirely diminished, it was easy to control me. And I wasn't resisting anymore because I had nothing left to resist with. So this whole process now, where I am today, when you ask me where I am today, I'm trying to go back and find that girl again. I'm going back and trying to find my feelings again and my authentic self again, and learning how to trust my intuition, or how to even hear my intuition, how to even feel my body. That's where I'm at now. It's just this long, difficult process of finally being aware of what was going on all these years, because I didn't even know that I'd never really done this work, because I didn't even know that this is what had happened to me. So, Tiffany, my best friend, who you've read about in my book, used to always talk about there's a spark in you. There's like a little bit of a fire in there, and I just need to fan that flame, And she was always trying to fan the flame and get me to rise up and demand more for myself and say, I don't deserve this and this isn't right. And but I just didn't have the courage to do that. And like I mentioned, I had the courage with my daughter to do it for her, but now I'm having the courage to do it for myself finally, where I'm saying, no, I am worthy and I don't deserve this. And it's all new. It's all brand new, and still figuring it out.
Well, thank you so much, Yasmine.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you so much, Isabel.
If you loved this episode, please share it with a friend or family member who would really benefit from hearing this content. And if you do share it on social media, don't forget to follow and tag me at Whose Body Is It? So until next time.